Quite interesting is the world, active, agile and attractive. And it's wonderful to keep ourselves involved of the various happenings around the world. To keep you informed with, we are resuming our news analysis. Welcome back to News Analysis. News Analysis, a weekly magazine on current affairs. We'll begin it with the headlines first. Brexit, Johnson in race to win support for deal. El Chapo, Mexican police free drug lord's son as cocaine battle erupts. Mums suspected among South Wales University students. Turkey, Syria offensive. Trump likens conflict to playground fight. Fierce Australian dust storm turns day to night in seconds. Zhou Ziyan, forget Chinese communist reformer, is buried. Does Huawei's future lie with India after US ban? And now we will go to the stories in detail. Brexit, Johnson in race to win support for deal. Boris Johnson is in a race against time to sell the Brexit deal he has struck with the European Union to MPs ahead of a Commons vote on Saturday. The Prime Minister insists he is very confident of getting the majority he needs to get Brexit done by his 31st October deadline. But the DUP and every opposition party plans to vote against his deal. That means he must persuade Labour rebels, ex-Tories and Brexiteers in his own party to get on board. A spokesman for Mr. Johnson said he and his team were spending the day on the phone to MPs from across the Commons to sell the deal. The Prime Minister will also hold a cabinet meeting in number 10 later. El Chapo, Mexican police free drug lord's son as cocaine battle erupts. Heavy fighting broke out in northern Mexico on Thursday after security forces detained a son of the jailed drug kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Fighting raged for several hours after Ovidio Guzman Lopez was found during a routine patrol in the city of Culiacán. Footage showed heavily armed men firing on police with cars, bodies and burning barricades strewn in the road. Police withdrew without Mr. Guzman in their custody to avoid further violence, officials said. Mexico Security Minister Alfonso Durazo told Reuters news agency that a patrol of National Guard militarized police came under in the intense fire from outside the house where they had located Mr. Guzman, forcing them to retreat from the building for their own safety and to recover calm in the city. A lawyer for the Guzman family told the Associated Press Ovidio is alive and free. Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said he would hold a meeting of his security cabinet to discuss the incident. Mums suspected among South Wales University students. Almost 30 suspected cases of mumps, a contagious viral infection that causes swelling of the glands, have struck students at universities in Wales. Public Health Wales PHW is investigating a series of cases in Cardiff and the CWMTAF area. It's urging people to make sure they have received the MMR vaccination. Cardiff University, Cardiff Metropolitan University and the University of South Wales have advised students to be aware of the symptoms. PHW has been informed of 28 suspected cases as of 16th October, though said it was continuing to monitor the situation. Just 3 weeks into the new academic year, Cardiff Metropolitan University, which saw similar outbreak in April, said it was aware of a number of cases and was supporting those affected. The University of South Wales has asked anyone diagnosed with the virus to contact staff, while Cardiff University said it was unaware of any cases among its student population, but said the position remained changeable. People have been advised to make sure they are up to date with their MMR vaccination against measles, mumps, and rubella. Immunization rates have been falling for a number of reasons, and the UK has lost its measles-free status. Turkey-Syria offensive. Trump likens conflict to playground fight. US President Donald Trump has compared the deadly conflict between Turkish forces and Kurds in northeastern Syria to a fight between children. Like two kids in a lot, you have got to let them fight and then you pull them apart, he told a rally in Texas. Turkey has agreed to a US request to suspend operations so long as Kurdish fighters leave the border area. But fighting appeared to continue on Friday, despite a denial by Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Concern is growing about possible war crimes by Turkey and allied militias since the offensive began on 9 October. Syria could be beginning of the end of Mr. Trump. Mr. Erdogan moved against Kurdish forces in Syria after Mr. Trump announced he was pulling US forces out of Syria's border region. His aim is to push Kurdish militants regarded by Turkey as terrorists away from northernmost Syria and create a safe zone for resettling up to 2 million Syrian refugees currently in Turkey. Between 160,000 and 300,000 people are reported to have fled their homes since the fighting started, and there are fears that Turkish operation may lead to the ethnic cleansing of the local Kurdish population, as well as alienating the Kurds, who were instrumental in defeating the Islamic State group in Syria. Mr. Trump has faced withering criticism from Republican allies over his decision to move US troops aside ahead of Turkey's invasion. President Erdogan dismissed reports of continuing clashes on Friday as misinformation, but international news media recorded explosions in the flashpoint border town of Rasalain during the morning. Earlier this week, an extraordinary letter from Mr. Trump to Mr. Erdogan telling the Turkish leader not to be a fool emerged, with Turkish sources telling the reporters that Mr. Erdogan binned the letter. But on Thursday in Texas, Mr. Trump defended his handling of the crisis. It was unconventional what I did, he told his supporters, said they are going to have to fight a little while. They fought for a few days and it was pretty vicious. Fierce Australian dust storms turns day to night in seconds. The Australian town of Kingaroy in Queensland was hit by a fierce dust storm on Thursday, with winds reaching up to 90 kilometers per hour, that is 56 miles per hour. Metropolitans say that Australia's drought continues. The country will see more of such storms as more dust gets kicked up by strong gales. Zhao Ziyang, purged Chinese communist reformer, is buried. The ashes of reformist Chinese leader Zhao Ziyang, purged for opposing using force to suppress student protests in 1989, have been buried in Beijing. The remains of Mr. Zhao, who died in 2005, were interred along with those of his wife in a quiet ceremony. Mr. Zhao was ousted as General Secretary of the Communist Party in 1989 and lived under house arrest until he died. The crackdown authorized by officials killed hundreds and has been excised from Chinese history books. Negotiations about what to do with the ashes of a man the authorities have also tried to write out of history have gone on for years. Only close family were allowed to attend the low-key burial in Tianzhou Garden Cemetery in Xiaoping in Beijing's northern outskirts. Negotiations about what to do with the ashes of a man the authorities have also tried to write out of history have gone on for years. Well-wishers and supporters were kept away. Today we are burying our parents with family ceremonies. The small ceremony is held in the atmosphere of family peace, Mr. Zhao's daughter Wang Yanan told reporters. Does Huawei's future lie with India after US ban? Chinese tech giant Huawei, which has been banned from selling 5G equipment to US telecom companies, is making an aggressive push to market itself in India. It has been squeezed out of countries by a few governments already, and so a possible contract with India for 5G would be especially important. Arun Sukumar, a tech analyst at the Observer Research Foundation, told reporters. It's worth noting that even though Huawei is comfortable at the moment, it will need to continue to invest across the world and into new markets in order to stay afloat. And what's a bigger market than India? Huawei has also been banned in Australia, and several other countries are considering following suit. The US says Huawei equipment contains backdoors that would enable Chinese surveillance. The US says Huawei equipment contains backdoors that would enable Chinese surveillance. But the company has repeatedly denied claims that the use of its products poses security risks and says it is independent from the Chinese government. The size of India's wireless market, dwarfed only by China, make it a vital market for any company. But the troubles Huawei is facing at present could make India too critical to its future. Indian Catholic nun denied justice by Vatican. An Indian Catholic nun expelled after she spoke out against a bishop accused of rape says she has been denied justice by Vatican. Sister Lucy Kalapura said she was disappointed by a Vatican decision to reject her appeal against her dismissal from the Franciscan Claris Congregation (FCC) in Kerala state. She said she would not leave the convent and now plans to go to court. Sister Lucy took part in protests against Bishop Franco Mulekal in 2018. He was later arrested over allegations he repeatedly raped a nun between 2014 and 2016. The bishop denies all the charges against him. Now we will move on to the alluring world of business. China economy, third quarter growth misses expectations. China's economy grew at a slower pace than expected in the third quarter as it struggled with a US-led trade war and softer domestic demand. In the 3 months to September, the economy expanded 6% from a year earlier, official figures showed. The result fell just short of expectation for 6.1% growth for the period. The slowdown comes despite government efforts to support the economy, including measures such as tax cuts. The latest figures mark a further loss of momentum in the world's second-largest economy, which had already seen growth languishing at its slowest pace in around 3 decades. We'll travel through the scintillating world of science now. NASA astronaut Christina Koch and Jessica Meir in all-women spacewalk. Two NASA astronauts are making the first ever all-female spacewalk. They were expected to spend 5.5 hours replacing the power regulator with a spare. Ms. Koch had already carried out 4 spacewalks, but it was the first for Ms. Meir, who became the 15th woman to walk in space, NASA said. And now from the arena of sports. Those super-fast Nike shoes are creating a problem. Last weekend's extraordinary marathon performances, 1 hour 59 minutes and 40 seconds by Eliud Kipchoge in Vienna and 2:14:04 by Brigid Kosgei in Chicago, have focused attention on an already simmering question. Does the International Association of Athletics Federations need a more stringent rule to define legal running shoes? It appears that running, the original and most elemental of sports, now faces the same tradition versus scientific innovation challenge that other sports have encountered. Think tennis rackets, baseball bats, and perhaps most similar competition swimwear, those polyurethane-based suits that were banned starting in 2010. The outcome of the current running shoes debate could affect everything from stock prices of global footwear companies to wins at the Olympic Marathon in Japan next summer. And that's all for now. And before we close this bulletin, let's have a recap of the main points. Brexit, Johnson in race to win support for deal. El Chapo, Mexican police free drug lord's son as hurricane battle erupts. Mumps suspected among South Wales University students. Turkey, Syria offensive. Trump likens conflict to playground fight. Fierce Australian dust storm turns day to night in seconds. Zhou Ziyan, purged Chinese communist reformer, is buried. Does Huawei's future lie with India after US ban? Thank you for being with us. Be present in the coming weeks too. Thank you very much.